Guys, it's Sekaar, and today we're going to be going over my Arcanist Bomber build I've got so far for the Necrom Chapter. I really like this build. I feel like it's just really nice to do a bomber version of this and just have groups blow up. And I think it's a lot of fun, and I really hope that you guys enjoy. One quick announcement before we get started, before we get on with the build. I did start up a second YouTube channel recently, which is just my VODs on Twitch. I don't really expect everybody to go over and watch the VODs because they're just my VODs from Twitch. I don't really want you guys to just watch through them at all if you don't want to. But what would really help me out tremendously is if you just went over and subscribed to the channel. Once we get to 1,000 subs on that other channel, we can get it monetized. So if you guys want to help me out in a very free way and you're already subbed to this main channel, please go sub to that other channel. The link will be in the description. Pause this video for 2 seconds, go over, click that subscribe button. It literally takes 2 seconds and it would just really mean the world to me. I'd highly appreciate it. But guys, thank you so much for doing that. Let's get on with the build. So starting here, we're gonna be looking at our character sheet. We're gonna be an Imperial on our Arcanist because Arcanist really has a lot of increased costs on the abilities. All the costs are very expensive, so Imperial cuts that down with that 6% reduced cost on all of your abilities. So in my opinion, that is the best way to go for this. You don't have Imperial because it's the only DLC class in the game, DLC race in the game. I apologize. I think the 3 best ways to go, I think I said this in the last video for Arcanist as well, is I think that Khajiit would work very well on Arcanist. I think that Wood Elf would work very well on Arcanist, especially a build like this. And I think that Dark Elf would work very well on a build like this as well. So if you don't have Imperial, I think that those are the 3 next best races to go with. So moving on to our attributes, we're going to have 32 points into health and 32 points into stamina to give us a max magic pool of 16.5k, a max health pool of 35k, and a max stam pool of 21.2. Moving on, our Mundus is going to be the warrior to increase our weapon damage as much as possible. And we're also going to be Vampire Stage 3 because Vampire Stage 3 gives us that undeath passive and that makes us super tanky. So that's super helpful. I definitely recommend doing that. And also we're going to be using Orzorga Smoked Bear Haunch on our food. I just got a bunch of extra because we got some awesome members of my Twitch community that really just spot me some Orzorgas. Usually I don't buy these anymore. So if you don't have this, use the Jewels of Miserable food. It's basically the exact same thing. You just lose a tiny little bit of health and a tiny little bit of stamina and magic recovery. It's really not noticeable and it's a lot cheaper. Moving on to our gear, we're going to be using Balorg as our monster set. We're going to be using a heavy Balorg head in Reinforced, and we're going to be using a medium Divine Shoulder. And so this is going to give us a line of weapon and spell damage. And then when you use an ultimate ability, you're going to gain weapon and spell damage equal to the amount of total ultimate consumed. So right now on this character, I think we have 500 ult. So say you use a 500 ult Balorg, you're going to get 500 weapon and spell damage. On top of that, you're also going to get physical and spell penetration equal to 23 times the amount for 12 seconds as well. So moving on to the calculator on my phone, 500 ult times 23 is 11,500 penetration. And on top of that, we already have a base of 11,000 pen. So we're basically just doing, when we have a 500 ult, we've got 22.5 thousand pen. That's insane. The amount of pen you have on Arcanist is insane. And that damage is through the roof. So I definitely recommend using Balorg. It gives that burst from your ultimate, great burst potential. And I definitely recommend checking this out. And definitely build up his ult as much as you can in between fights. That way your next ult hits as hard as possible. I can't even speak today. We're also going to have one extra piece on this entire setup. So we always use trainee. We have a heavy trainee chest piece in Reinforced to increase our max health as much as possible. Then our front bar set is going to be deadly. I know a lot of people are like, whoa, deadly, but trust me, the amount of burst damage that you have with this, because it's going to increase all of your abilities, is huge. I'll explain in a second. So the 2-piece on deadly gives you weapon spell damage, 3-piece crit chance, 4-piece another weapon spell damage, and the 5-piece is increases your damage over time and your channeled abilities by 15%. And so that is honestly phenomenal because you basically have 3 sources of damage on this build, and all of them are either damage over times or channeled abilities. So they're all doing great extra damage. It's all increased by 15%. And I think that's just the best thing that I found so far for any damage. I feel like a good alternative to this would be Plague Break, but I really like the way Deadly's felt. And I really feel like using this is just a great way to just secure those kills that are inside of your ultimate. It is amazing for your overall damage. Our back bar set is going to be Dark Convergence. We're going to be using a light Dark Convergence sash in Impen. What Dark Convergence gives you is a line of max magic, a line of offensive pen, weapon and spell damage, and so just it's a lot of talking in that little 5-piece. Basically to break down, because I know a lot of people know at this point, but I still want to explain it. You leave an AoE on the ground, and you're going to do a circle that pulls people in after 1 second. And then during that 1 second is when you start to line up your burst. So Dark Convergence is great to just line up a bunch of people and bring them all together. And then that's when you do your burst damage. And then moving on, we're going to be using Deadly Legs in Well Fitted. We're going to be using Deadly Feet in Well Fitted as well. We're also going to be using Dark Convergence as our jewelry pieces because this is a light set and we wanted more medium on our actual body. So Dark Convergence necklace in Bloodthirsty with a weapon spell damage enchantment on it. Also going to be using another Ring of Dark Convergence with a Bloodthirsty trait on it as well with a weapon spell damage enchantment on it. And I'm using Pale Order on this build. I know that there's a lot of better things for your damage and that you can use something like Markin or even Death Dealers. But for me, I think Pale Order is the smartest and best way to go for this build, especially if you're solo bombing. If you're bombing in a group and you have multiple people with you, I think probably either Markin or Dark Convergence or Markin or Death Dealers are probably the 2 best ways to go. But if you're solo bombing, Pale Order is the way to go. Bloodthirsty with a prismatic reduced cost enchantment on it. This way, you're doing so much damage in that little time, and a lot of little dots and a lot of little AoEs that are hitting multiple people. And in my opinion, it is the best way to go because you leave yourself so wide open when you're doing your ultimate. And this is a great way to just make sure that you're still getting healed in the middle of that. I've tried everything, and this is my favorite thing that I've used so far for actual bombing when I'm solo, because that way I'm still getting all of my heals right back when I'm bombing and I'm not wide open, and so that somebody else that didn't get pulled into the Dark Convergence can actually hit me and kill me. So in my opinion, Pale Order is the way to go. Moving on to our front bar weapons, we're going to be using dual wield Deadly Maces. Our main hand is going to be Nirnhoned with a shock damage enchantment on it, and our off hand is going to be sharpened with a flame damage enchantment on it. Then our back bar, we're going to be using Ice Staff of Dark Convergence in the defending trait with a magic damage enchantment on it. And then moving on to our skills, our front bar weapons or front bar skills, our main spammable that when we have them lined up in our burst, we're going to be using Pragmatic Fate Carver. This is our beam damage. It's going to be buffed by Deadly, so that damage on it is great. Every 0.3 seconds, you're going to be dealing 3,865 magic damage, and then also that damage is going to be increased if you have 3 cruxes, or if you have cruxes as well. So make sure when you're doing your burst, you have those 3 cruxes, and you basically double the damage of your beam, and it is great. I definitely recommend trying this. Using this for your overall burst damage is so nice. And then Camo Hunter, this is going to be so that you're getting your Major Savagery and Prophecy. So it's going to increase your weapon and spell crit by 2,600. Also, if you deal damage from the enemy's flank, you deal critical damage, you're going to be getting Minor Berserk as well. So try and get somebody from the back when you're doing damage. That way you get that damage up as much as possible. Camo Hunter really overall increases your damage. Moving on, we're also going to be using Inspired Scholarship. Just by having this on your bar, you're going to be getting Major Brutality and Sorcery, so it's going to increase your weapon and spell damage by 20%. Also, every 3 seconds, when you're doing a class ability on an enemy, so something like Pragmatic Fate Carver, or even your ultimate, or even something like Flail, it's going to be doing an extra little bit of 3,200 damage, so that is great. It's also going to be applying a Crux to you as well, so it's great for your overall Crux sustain, and it's great for your overall damage. It's definitely recommended that you use this morph instead. The other one's really good for your sustain, but I really feel like the sustain is fine on this build. And then I've got Razor Caltrops on this build. This slot is kind of a flex spot. If you don't like this, you don't have to use it. But this is going to apply Major Breach to your enemies, so it's going to reduce their physical and spell resistance by 6k. So that's huge for your damage. So on top of your base 11,010, you're also going to be reducing your enemies' resistances by 6k. So that's basically, if you do simple, quick math, that's 17k 10 that you have on your enemies right there, plus whatever you get from Balorg. So that's great for your overall damage. The only thing that I have to caution you guys about this is if you switch from your front bar to your back bar very quickly after using Caltrops, it can proc your Dark Convergence, and that might be bad if you're trying to quickly get your burst off. So a great way that I've found to make sure that you're not accidentally proccing it, make sure that you throw down your Caltrops and then hit your Inspired Scholarship afterwards, just to make sure that buff is up. Even if the buff has already been up for a while, it's a great way to make sure that there's enough time between your switching from your front bar to your back bar, so that your Dark Convergence does not proc. I hope that makes sense to you guys. I could show you guys right here, actually. I'll show you guys. So if I'm on my front bar, I'm gonna switch to my back bar right away after hitting my Caltrops. You can see that if I switch it too fast, I can proc Dark Convergence, and sometimes that's good if you don't have your overall buff up, but if you don't have your ultimate up. But honestly, it's really great that for your in-between bombs. A great way to keep your enemies on their toes, and overall, I just think it's great damage. Just keep that in mind. That's the only bad part about using Caltrops, but overall, I definitely like it for your extra damage. Also, it's a nice little AoE that hits on all your enemies, so it's going to proc your... It's not going to be much healing, but it's also going to be proccing your Pale Order as well. That's going to give you more healing, so why not? Also, we're going to be using Flail, so this is great for multiple reasons. It's a great source of damage, but also you're going to be immobilizing your enemies that are hit with this. So after you put them into that Dark Convergence, they get pulled in. Most times, people just try to move right away. And if you hit them with Flail, they get immobilized, so they get stuck in that. So really the combo right now, I could show you more in depth on an actual target dummy after I'm done explaining everything on here. But basically the full burst is you throw your Caltrops down, have your Dark Convergence, switch back to your front bar and hit them with Flail, and people get stuck in that little AoE, and they take the full damage of Dark Convergence and then your ultimate as well, and it is great for your overall damage. I have been absolutely loving it, and it is just great. The amount of extra damage you do is amazing. I definitely recommend trying it out. Also, I've got Dawnbreaker of Smiting on our front bar. I don't use it too often because our bomb is mostly considered on our back bar. The reason why we have Dawnbreaker is because in the Fighter's Guild passive, increases your weapon and spell damage for each Fighter's Guild ability slotted. So that's just going to be an extra 3% as well for our overall damage. And moving on to our back bar, we're going to be using Impervious Rune Ward. This is going to be a nice little heal and also a nice damage shield for you. That way you're just reducing the amount of damage that's incoming to you. It's great to alternate this between your other heals. That way, you know, you get that shield up and that just absorbs most of your damage. Also, moving on, we're going to be using Race Against Time. This is going to be your snare removal. And then also on top of that, you're going to be getting Major Expedition and Minor Force. So it's going to increase your movement speed by 30%. Increase your critical damage by 10%. So you're going to be your crit damage on here is on our front bar. Sorry. Your front bar, your critical is at 28%, which is not bad. You're bound to be critting a lot on this build when you're using your overall burst. So make sure that you have that up when you're lining for your burst. That way your critical damage is increased as much as possible. Also, Resolving Vigor. This is going to be a nice 5-second heal over time for you. That's going to get your health a lot higher. Also, on top of that, you're going to be getting Minor Resolve, so it's going to increase your physical and spell resistance by 3k for 20 seconds. And then I like Audacious Rune Men better than the other morph because I really felt like the small little heal over time on the other morph didn't really give you that much. So if you're at lower health, healing yourself under 50%, it's going to give you Minor Heroism for 6 seconds. So it's going to give you a little bit of extra ult. It's not much. Really, neither morph is better than the other. They're both meh, in my opinion, but they both work. and they both give you great heals. So if you combined Rune Mend with Resolving Vigor, they're both 2 great heals. And on top of that, also using Impervious Rune Ward, 3 great heals and a shield. It's great for your overall survivability. And then also for our last ability, we're going to be using Crux Weaver's Armor. This is going to be your source of major resolve. So this is going to increase your physical and spell resistance by 6k. Also, while the armor persists, taking damage is going to apply minor breach to the attacker for 6 seconds. So that's awesome. And then also, whenever you take damage, you're going to be giving yourself a Crux. So that's great for your overall Crux sustain, and that's great because your Cruxes are spent on 2 abilities on this build. That your Cruxes are either going to be spent on your Rune Ward, which is going to give you a higher heal, or it's going to be spent on your Fate Carver, which is going to give you a higher damage. So whichever you want to do, your heal is really good for in-between bombs, but when you have those 3 Cruxes and you're ready to go for a bomb, make sure that you use it on your Fate Carver. Then on our back bar ultimate, it's going to be Languid Eye. This is going to be the stationary morph of this ult. You don't want it following people because the stationary does a little bit more damage, and it's just great for your overall damage. This is going to be proccing your Dark Convergence since it's technically an AoE. So a great way to use this is right here, like I can show you. You put down Caltrops, you wait a second. So like, look, Caltrops, and then you hit this, your major... this ability, your B. I forgot the name of it for a second, sorry. Anyway, you hit that, then you switch to your back bar, you ultimate, you see it procs your Dark Convergence, and you use your flail. People are stuck in that, and they are taking so much damage. Don't worry, guys. I've got a bunch of clips that I could show after this that I'm going to. And look at that pen. Oh, never mind. It's already gone. But the pen was insane for a second. Like, I missed out in time. But overall, definitely recommend using this ultimate. It is great for your damage. The amount of damage that it does in a few seconds is disgusting. Comboing that with Dark Convergence, Caltrops, and your Flail and your Fate Carver, the damage on that is nuts, guys. It's nuts. And I definitely have fun doing this. And I really hope that you guys enjoy too. Moving on to our last little bit, we're going to be using our champion points. Our blue slottables are going to be Focus Mending, Thaumaturge, Fighting Aura, and Occult Overload. Definitely use Occult Overload because this is going to be what's blowing a lot of other people up too. They're going to be taking a quick extra 5k damage. I definitely recommend that. If you don't have this, you might not get those finishing kills, but I definitely recommend this. It is great for your overall burst damage when you're in the middle of bombing people. Red slottables, Celerity, Boundless Vitality, Bastion, and Shieldmaster. And then our green slottables, the only things that really matter are Breakfall, Rationer, and Liquid Efficiency. And I'm gonna actually go and show you guys real quick the burst lineup. So let's move on to that part right now. All right, so I want to try out my burst potential on this little stack that they have here. So to talk it over all the abilities that I have and in which order I'm going to do it, I'm going to first hit my Caltrops on the enemy, and then I'm going to hit my... I keep on forgetting the name of this. I'm still new to Arcanist, guys, I know. Then I'm going to hit my Inspired Scholarship. So I'm going to do Caltrops, Inspired Scholarship, switch to my back bar, use my ultimate, then hit my Flail, which is my RB button right there, and then hit my Fate Carver. And that should do most of the damage, guys. I know that these are ads, so, you know, it might not kill them all in time. But I'm going to do it from this angle, that way I can hit them all. So I also make sure your race against time is up. Make sure your... real quick, actually. I was going to build up some Cruxes, but make sure your Crux Weaver's armor is up, just so you can build up some Cruxes as well. So again, switch to our front bar, Caltrops, Inspired Scholarship, back bar, ultimate, flail, and then beam. And then that is our entire burst. You can see that these things have 300,000 health each, and they got melted that quickly. So that is the entire burst. It's that simple. I know it's a lot of going back and forth, but I mean, you gotta do that in order to get those bombs anyway. These are actual players that you're going up against. And so I wanted to show you guys also real quick exactly the amount of damage that our front bar has when we are, and just how our stat sheet looks when we're fully buffed up and after we use our Balorg. So after we use our Balorg, 500 ult, We've got 22.5 thousand pen, and our weapon and spell damage gets up to about almost just shy of 6k. So that's massive. I definitely recommend that. That damage is nuts, and I definitely have a good time on this build. I hope that you guys too. And a few last things before we end. If you're not subscribed to that other channel and this channel as well, please go do so. This channel is all like this channel is my baby. I always appreciate any new subscribers that we have to this channel, but all my returning viewers, if you're not subscribed to my other channel, you don't have to watch the other videos or just my Twitch VODs. If you want to watch my Twitch VODs, that's awesome. I definitely would appreciate that. But what's really important to me is that you guys go and subscribe to that, because once we get that other channel to 1,000 subs, we can make it monetize, and that makes the whole full-time content creator a reality, and I would just really appreciate it. So please, that link will be in the description. Also, if you don't want to see any of my builds live in action, you can catch me live at twitch.tv/Sekaar, where I stream 5 days a week. Come stop by. I always test out these builds. I always have a great time. That's where all my clips come from, because I'm always recording on my Twitch. So come on, stop by. I would highly appreciate it. That link will also be in the description. But that's it from me, guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, like the video, subscribe to the video, and commenting also helps a lot for the algorithm. So comment, just be like, hi, I enjoyed the video. Just something simple like that. It really means a lot. But guys, that's it from me. I've talked so much. I'm not going to talk your ears off anymore. I really hope that you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys on the next video. Later.
this.